Nothing is impossible. The words, the statement from Laporta, the big dog at Barcelona, when asked about could Erling Haaland sign for Barcelona. Of course, Erling Haaland signed to a life sentence at Man City on £500,000 a week. But as the president of Barcelona has said, nothing is impossible. And of course, their current striker is a 36-year-old, very high-profile Robert Lewandowski, but he's 36. Of course, Erling Haaland is 24. But there's deeper sort of, not ramifications, but there's an underlying narrative here of perhaps the natural successes of, Messi versus Ronaldo at Barcelona and Real Madrid, respectively. And of course, those players have gone. They've tried to replace each guys. You looked at sort of maybe Gareth Bale, and then of course possibly Eden Hazard, and then Vinny Jr. to be this leading figure for Real Madrid. And similarly, at Barcelona, it was supposed to be Neymar, but when he saw that he was never going to get out of the shadow, he goes to PSG. They bring in Griezmann, they bring in, lots of players. Ousmane Dembele, who of course is looking like an absolute insane superstar now at PSG, but it's taken him till 27 to reach this point. They've really tried to fill that void. And of course, we've heard the recent news, or there's been reports circulating around football media, that Lamine Yamal, the 17-year-old footballing alien that has been bathed by Lionel Messi, the aforementioned, will be taking the number 10 shirt for Barcelona. Hey, no pressure, kid. At least I'd be saying no pressure, kid, if I didn't watch this child play football in European finals and, cup finals and in the Champions League. He's insane. He's incredible. But even though Yamal is an amazing player and gets loads of assists and scores wonder goals, he's a different player to Messi. He definitely plays out much more wide like a winger. Is he going to get the insane goal numbers that a Messi and Ronaldo will get? Well, it does look like on the other side of La Liga, of the Clasico, that in Real Madrid, Kylian Mbappe will score the Ronaldo goals. I think he's possibly the top goal scorer in Europe. I know he's had an amazing debut season. He's comfortably outscored Cristiano Ronaldo's first season at Real Madrid. And of course, Kylian Mbappe is playing in a position that affords him lots of goals. He's playing as even though he wants to play off the left and play in that left channel, he's ostensibly playing as the striker. He's wearing the number 9 for Real Madrid. I'm pretty sure he's wearing the number 9 for Real Madrid. I want to just double check that, of course. I can't see. Let me just double check. Yeah, it's number 9. I don't know why I doubted myself. He's playing as a striker at Real Madrid. He's even if Yamal's the future, he's so much younger. I mean, he's best part 10 years younger than Mbappe. Mbappe's still entering his prime, yeah. But he's still like a decade older than Yamal. How old is he? 26. So he's a couple years older than Erling Haaland. So they're kind of like Ronaldo and Messi, and they're only 2 years apart. And of course, there's this big gaping striker hole where they've been playing with a conventional number 9 like Robert Lewandowski, and of course Erling Haaland is definitely a conventional number 9. He's a proper striker down the middle, and if he's being fed by the likes of Rafinha and Yamal, he'll score loads of goals, and indeed goals from midfield. Now, Man City fans won't like to hear this, and of course, for a long, long time after he signed for Man City, there was talks of a Real Madrid exit clause in Erling Haaland's contract. This was rumoured all over the gaff. Real Madrid fans often think they can sign everyone. Yeah, we'll get Mbappe and Haaland. I mean, they've got too many attackers. They're all sitting on top of each other at the moment, and it's causing an issue. But they signed Mbappe, and you don't want Mbappe and Haaland, do you? You want Mbappe versus Haaland, and it does seem like the narrative gods would write this in the stars. Haaland at Barcelona, Mbappe at Real Madrid, both scoring insane amount of goals, and eating up La Liga. Of course, the elephant in the room here is a 10-year deal, or however many years it is, 9 years deal now at Man City. Of course, he's on mass amounts of money. I spoke about this yesterday when I was speaking about Man City. There's some people talking about that actually Man City lately, I know they won the treble, he scored loads of goals, they're amazing. They're amazing. But in the current iteration of Man City, in the current landscape of Premier League football, that Man City had been playing better in the absence of Erling Haaland. They were on a really strong winning run. The last 2 games he's returned for, they drew a blank at Southampton and lost the cup final. Now, of course, there's context required, certainly for the cup final. You know, he gave away the penalty to Marmoush to miss, and of course the red card Dean Henderson stuff. You know, you can't completely write off the underlying narrative, but there are people suggesting that they have been playing better without Erling Haaland, and maybe there's a future where everything's not all rosy at Man City to the point where the insanely ambitious Erling Haaland might look elsewhere. And of course, because of his long contract, Man City would be in an incredibly strong negotiating position. Oh yeah, by the way, just started talking. Welcome back to Football, Yannick. How you doing, mate? Daily content on this YouTube channel, of course. And should you want to support me, please do drop a like on the video and subscribe if you want to, and hit the bell if you choose to. Let's carry on. Look, like many people have speculated, Man City are not in any, are not going to suffer any consequences for allegations because of their spend, because of their crazy spend. Of course, there's the story that came out yesterday. Florian Wirtz isn't going to go to Man City. Apparently it was a financial thing, but a lot of Man City fans on social media are speculating that's a brief, and that he's turned down the opportunity to go to Man City to stay in Germany for Bayern Munich. He's chosen to go to Bayern Munich. I think his dad wanted him to go. Look, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but until we know what's going on with the 132 charges or whatever it is these days, surely agents need to have certainties that if they send their client there, you are not going to, suffer a minus 40 points deduction, get relegated, not play in the Champions League. Football careers are short. A season out of the Champions League's massive for my client. Yada, yada, yada. Now, Erling Haaland's nailed his colours to the mast. Very long contract. Of course, Guardiola extended, which the optics dictate that everything seems positive and quite good and fine. But I wonder if there is a release clause. The only problem is with the likes of Erling Haaland is he earns £500,000 a week. Like, £500,000 a week. Should we just work out what that contract's worth? I did some quick maths and it's 240 million in wages if it is a decade contract. $250 million in wages alone. Obviously, Barcelona is not going to give him a 10-year deal. They'll give him a 5-year deal. And no matter, even though they pay insane wages, they're not paying him £500,000 a week. They're paying him maybe 350, 400 a week. Certainly a bit less. So he'd be taking a pay cut. But I wonder if there's an exit clause for both Man City. Like, what if Man City have look, if we get done by the Premier League here, where you get paid less, or you're allowed to go elsewhere and on a free and get whatever. There'll be ways to protect the player, but also Man City is an institution that, if we get sent in the Championship, we can't pay you £500,000 a week. There'll probably be loads of detailed stuff in the contract that cover certain situations and scenarios in different instances. But yeah, make no bones about it, mate. I know the Clasico clubs in Barca and Real Madrid have paid, historically the biggest wages in the world. I'll be very surprised with the financial issues that have been, meticulously reported of Barcelona the last few years, that they will just be like, yeah, we'll pay that, come on down. But you can definitely, whether it's Tebas, the head of the league, whether it's, of course, everyone at Barcelona, because obviously they need a successor to Lewandowski, but just the narrative of Haaland versus Mbappe. And indeed, dare I say, people at Real Madrid would probably want it. Because, of course, they're fierce rivals, but they need each other. This has always been the underlying truth towards their rivalry, that they need each other to be good. They don't laugh at each other. They laugh at each other when they lose, Real Madrid throwing their toys out the pram. They've got loads of good players. Barca fans are loving it. But they need Real Madrid to be relevant and good, because La Liga's probably the second best league in the world. But it is those two clubs. You know, there's the big six turning into like the big seven and whatever, and eight or whatever in the Premier League. These big like footballing institutions where the best managers in the world, like players, come. But really, the European eyes, of course, there's been a sort of underdog affection to Atletico Madrid. But really, it's the Clasico. It's Real Madrid and Barcelona. That's their USP, their unique selling point. So always, there was this talk about when Barcelona were, pulling levers and in financial ruin. Oh, are Real Madrid laughing at them? And there'll be certain, whether maybe fans were, but I remember like Sid Lowe, covers Spanish football, says, well, they kind of don't want each other to go bust and go under because they rely on each other. It's like the yin and the yang, the rivalry. So there'll probably be elements and parts of people in Madrid that would actually like Haaland to go to Barcelona so they can have the Haaland versus Mbappe. Very, very interesting. Of course, look, he's just... For it to happen, he would have to go, I want this. Firstly, I want to be part of this narrative, the Haaland versus Mbappe, Barcelona, Real Madrid. And of course, we talked about him being very ambitious, wanting to go to Real Madrid. Maybe if that ambition sees a decline in Man City, dare I say Pep Guardiola, I think Guardiola is the best. I don't, even when I banter like Real Madrid or Man City or rivals or, even Barcelona, I always try and pay respects. I think Guardiola is like the best working manager of our time in terms of influence. I prefer Jose Mourinho as like a theatrical character with like amazing achievements. Of course, like Mourinho won the Champions League with Porto, he won the treble with Inter. He does got underdog stories as well as amazing wins with Real Madrid and Chelsea and whatever. So I find him, I feel like football would be worse off. It would be worse to lose Mourinho, basically, in the story and the theatre of football. But in terms of, like, the footballing influence, Guardiola is, like, unmatched, But I still think he's peaked. And that doesn't necessarily mean he's not the best choice for Man City. But I don't think we'll ever see them as good as they were. Which is fine. Like, how old is Guardiola now? Like, he's... he's not 40-something, young 40-something. He's 54, so like he's not decrepit, but I think they're the best Guardiola we've seen personally. And maybe Haaland thinks that, and he thinks, okay, well I've won the treble, I've won the league again. I've scored loads of goals. Has he scored 100 goals for Man City? I'm assuming he does. He scored loads of frigging goals. He's like, I've shown I can do it in the Prem. No issues, mate. Won the treble. Now I want to go and do this. Maybe. I don't know. And of course, we don't know everything off the pitch that's going to happen. But really, really interesting to hear Laporta say that. What do you think? Let me know your thoughts. Comment down below. Thanks for joining me. Thank you for liking and subscribing. And I do hope to see you back here very soon. Peace.